Hey everybody, Tim and Julie here for today's review of Batman 1966, Season 2, Episodes 13 and 14, Eggs Grow in Gotham, Yegg Foes in Gotham. What do you think?
I'm excited.
Are you egg-cited? So I remember the first time, it was years ago, when we watched our first Catwoman episode. And we both were like, how many different puns can you make? Like, it was amazing. The catastrophe, like everything. And we were like, it was amazing. I didn't realize how many egg puns there were in the world.
Yes.
Like, so as you can see by my shirt, we got the Riddler, the Joker, and Two-Face. I feel like I need to go out and buy some sort of egghead t-shirt now. So before we really get into it, I'll go ahead and jump in first and say I absolutely love Vincent Price. I'm a big Vincent Price fan. My top 3, off the top of my head, maybe top 4, would be Edward Scissorhands, which is a great like Tim Burton movie because he's a Tim Burton actor, so we get that, where he's the creator. One of his last things he ever did. He was the voice of Ratigan in The Great Mouse Detective, which is one of my absolute favorite Disney movies. Very, very underrated. Also the first major Disney movie to have a big computer scene in it. It's when they're in Big Ben. Anyway, we got those two. And then, of course, the narrator in Thriller, where he does his laugh at the end, and he's like, "Tonight is the night of horror." And because he's a horror actor, going back to the old days, I think he was in the original 13 Ghosts. I think was it the House on Haunted Hill? Like, God, he goes back way back. He's a fantastic actor. Like, yes. he was amazing, way ahead of his time. And realistically, he didn't do anything special. Like, he was just creepy.
Yes.
But he was creepy and funny at the same time.
Right.
Like, if you met, like, Bela Lugosi, for example, in a dark alleyway, you'd be like, nope, not today. No. Not gonna happen. But if you met Vincent Price, even if he was being creepy, you'd be like, you are a sweet old man. Yes, like, look at you. Like, he has the creepy laugh and everything, but you're like, you are the cutest thing ever. And even in this, where he's the villain of Batman, which Batman itself, it's so cheesy, it's so over the top, but Vincent Price being Vincent Price, it was just like, I can't even be mad at you. He is more like Ma Parker than Ma Parker was. Like, I couldn't arrest him. He'd be too cute. With a little bald head. Oh, look at you. So anyways, that's my whole rant. Like, I absolutely love Vincent Price. Vincent Price can do no wrong. Yeah. Okay, so go ahead. What'd you think?
I liked him. He was funny. All his egg expressions.
Yeah, that's good. I love that. The egg expressions.
Yeah, he was funny. Yeah, he wasn't creepy at all.
No, and he did great.
He did good.
So that's one of those I don't remember. I was alive when he died. Because like I said, Edward Scissorhands had come out. That was like, I remember reading about like he fainted on the set of Edward Scissorhands and everybody thought he had died. And he did die shortly after that. So it was in the 90s. But I was too young, didn't know, didn't care. Like, do you remember when Vincent Price died?
No,
like, did it make that much of an impression?
No.
I mean, it happens. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's one of those, like, me now as an adult, when I watch his movies, I'm like, God, I wish I had remembered, like, when he was alive. So, I mean, Adam West, even though, like, you and I just started watching the show, I knew who Adam West long before we started watching this. And he died recently, like a couple years ago. And still, I remember like, oh, wow, Adam West died. Like, that's really sad. And now we're watching this, and I'm like, I didn't, even though I remember when he died, and I was sad he died, I don't feel like I gave it enough appreciation.
Right.
Although, eventually, like, I know Burt Ward's still alive, Julie Newmar's still alive, even Lee Merriweather's still alive. God, to be honest with you, I think that's it. I think those are like the last three, the big ones. And realistically, Lee Merriweather was in the movie. That's about it. But Julie Newmar and Burt Ward, now that we're watching this, when they do end up passing away, it's going to be that much more sad.
Well, get off the subject just a little bit. I'm a big NASCAR fan.
Okay.
And I hated Dale Earnhardt.
Okay. Which is coincidental, because I think that's Jordan's favorite.
I hated him.
Hopefully he doesn't watch this.
But when I was watching the race that he died in, and even though I hated him...
Did his son die?
No.
No.
Junior's still around.
Okay.
But even though Dale died, it was sad.
Okay.
Because you don't wish that on anybody. Even though you don't like the way they race.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I was sad. And there's been several other drivers, I feel the same way. I don't like... But it's
when somebody dies, it's sad.
It's sad.
Even if you don't like them, you're like, it's the end of a life, so you're kind of sad.
Yeah.
I'm not. I know zero about racing. I don't care for racing. I'm actually pretty sure Dale Earnhardt Jr. is dead.
He's not dead.
Is he not? Okay.
He's not dead. He announces now.
Oh,
he just got married. He just
had
a baby.
Oh.
He's not dead.
Okay. So for this one. We watched Batman Forever. That actually seemed reminiscent for this one. With the whole mind wave thing. Where he was like, I know. This is the first time, as far as I know, for at least for the TV show, somebody has actually figured out that Bruce Wayne was Batman. Like, he didn't prove it, but he was like, logistically speaking... Scientifically speaking, statistically speaking, millionaire, age range, stuff like that, it's going to be Bruce Wayne. And then he tried to do the brain drain thing.
Right.
He's like, I'm going to suck your ideas out and I'm going to put them in my own head, which is the main plot for Batman Forever, where the Riddler tries to do that. So I was like, oh, look at that! Never knew that, which is why I love watching this show, because of those connections. Commissioner Egghead, whatever, it doesn't matter. I didn't catch the actor. I wrote it down later after we watched it. Ben Alexander is in this from Dragnet. Which, I know Dragnet, honestly, I know Dragnet more from the movie. The Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd movie from like 87, I think. But this goes back to the 50s.
I watched Dragnet every weekend.
And Ben Alexander was one of he wasn't the main character, he was like the second character. And when I didn't even notice the actor, because I honestly have never seen the original 50s Dragnet. But when he was like, just the facts, man, just the facts. I was like, I know that. Where do I know that? And I was like, I did look it up. I cheated and I looked it up. And I was like, yep, that's the guy from Dragnet. I don't know. Do you like Dragnet? Did you like it? You said you watched it.
I liked it growing up, yes. And I kind of remember the movie that you were talking about.
Oh, with Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
That was more of a comedy. As far as I know, the original was very detective drama series.
Yes.
Dan Aykroyd, Ghostbusters, etc., made it into a comedy.
Yeah.
But I think they still just the facts, man. Just the facts.
That was one of their main things.
Also, neither one of us noticed or caught who he was. Even looking it up, we don't know who he was. But a character stuck his head out the window, so you know he's going to be important. It was Bill Donna, who, after looking up his thing, made some appearances in Golden Girls. This is the 60s, 20 plus years after this episode. And I recognize him, after reading it, I recognize him from Golden Girls. Because he plays like Sophia's brother. And I was like, oh, yes! But before this, he played a character, Jose Jimenez. I butchered the fuck out of that because I don't speak Spanish, so I apologize. And he had been in all sorts of shows in the early 60s. No, I don't recognize him. Don't know who he is. So, that one, I barely knew... I just lost his name. The Nutty Professor. Jerry Lewis? I barely knew Jerry Lewis. I barely knew Dick Clark. I barely knew Sammy Davis Jr. I knew the Green Hornet because of he's a superhero. Like, you may as well have just had, like, Superman stick his head out and be like, I know who that is. But, like, I'm like, okay. Even, like I said, with Dick Clark. I know Dick Clark more from the ball drop. Like, Dick Clark's New Year's Eve special. More than I knew, like, American Bandstand. Even though I knew American Bandstand. But I knew Dick Clark 40 years later. So, even if you're like, here's a young picture of Dick Clark. I'm like, I don't know who that is. But, I mean, there's other actors. Like, this is a terrible example, but it's the first one to come to mind. Like, Clint Eastwood. When I think of Clint Eastwood, I think of him as, like, a 70-year-old man. Like, if you show me a picture of him in his 20s, I would probably get it, to be honest. I would probably get it. But for a 10-second, like, if he just stuck his head out the window in Batman and was like, what are you doing? And then stuck his head back, I don't know if I'd get it right away. I'd be like, who was that? And that's how I felt with, like, the other three. So, but Bill Donna, no,
Had no clue.
Didn't get it at all. Realistically, if you had Ben Alexander and he'd stuck his head out the window and been like, just the facts, Batman, I would have picked that up more than I would have gotten this one. So
even though some of the shows this guy was in, I watched as a kid, but the name still didn't
do anything. And that's I've seen that with other actors where I'm like, they look really familiar, and you look it up. Like, I have seen every single episode of X-Files ever. And you look up their filmography, and they did one episode in 1997. And you're like, even if I've seen every episode of X-Files, the chances of me remembering this one character in this one episode 30 years ago, not going to happen. If I rewatch that episode, then I'd be like, oh, there he is. But off the top of my head, it's not going to happen. So, which is fine. It doesn't matter. I got to sneeze again. Any other closing thoughts? Do you hope we see Egghead? Do you hope we see the Egghead again? Vincent Price?
Chances are probably not, but I wouldn't mind seeing him again.
Okay, I'm kind of with you. Like, at this point, I'm giving up. Like, trying to figure out if we see him again.
When we've watched so far, there's a new character, so who knows?
We've lost. We brought it up in the last review. Season 1, the Joker, the Penguin, the Riddler, every other story. And that's fine. It's the big 3. So far in Season 2, we're 7 stories into it, 14 episodes. And we've seen some reoccurrences, like we've seen King Tut for the second time, we saw Catwoman for the second time, and so forth. But for the most part, we have not seen the Riddler, the Joker, or the Penguin. So I don't know. I'm digging it, but at the same time, like I feel like a dick, because in Season 1 I was like, we keep seeing the same 3 people all the same time, and now that we're seeing new people, I'm like, why don't we see these 3 people again? Like, somebody's like, who's probably dead by now, is probably like, pick your battle, like, pick one. And I'm like, why do we keep seeing the same people? Why don't we see these people anymore? But it is what it is. I'm still having fun.
Yes, me too.
So sometimes it's great, sometimes it's meh. I still don't think I've seen a single story where I'm like, oh God, maybe we shouldn't be doing this show anymore. Yeah. But, oh well. Closing thoughts for Egghead.
I'd like to see him again.
Like to see him again? I wouldn't. It's Vincent Price.
Yeah.
Literally, like, Vincent Price is up there with, like, Sean Connery. Like, if I could just pay him, if he was alive, just pay him to read me the phone book. Don't even care. I just love to listen to his voice. It'd be great.
Or just come visit and just spend the day talking.
Yeah. I don't even care what he's saying, because Vincent Price just has that voice where you're just like, it's like Christopher Walken. Then, like, Sean Connery, Christopher Walken, Vincent Price, don't even care what they're saying. Just to hear their voice. They have something about their voice where I'm just like, oh, look, listen to you. You're so cute. That's all we got for Egghead. We're good?
Yeah,
okay.
We're good.
So, if you guys have seen this one, what did you think about Egghead? Would you like to see him again? I didn't even talk about it. I meant to, but his 3 henchmen were Benedict, Fu Young, and Bacon.
Bacon, yeah. Bacon was the girl.
Mm-hmm. But Eggs Benedict and Egg Fu Young, loved it. I didn't even talk about any of my notes. We were just so focused. Them being on laughing gas and then taking the sad pill.
Sad pill.
To,
That
what
was
is
funny.
that? What?
Yeah.
So we get that. So for those who have seen it, what did you think about Egghead? Do you want to see him again? Let us know. Otherwise, we will see you guys next time for The Devil's Fingers and Dead Ringers.